Hello everyone, welcome to this online class. We were discussing about atmospheric pressure. We have discussed the concept of air pressure. We also have discussed about the factors affecting the atmospheric pressure, and we have discussed about distribution of pressure belts. In this video, we should discuss about the wind system. How, due to the change of pressure, atmospheric pressure, the regular blowing of the winds take place. The different amount of the temperature that is received on the earth makes difference in moving of the winds. We know that wind moves from high pressure to low pressure. As we have understood about the pressure belt that is divided according to the temperature of the earth's surface. We also have discussed about the temperature zones: torrid zone, temperate zone, frigid zone, right? So when we know which of the areas receive high amount of temperature and which of the area receive less amount of temperature latitudinally, then we will be able to understand the direction of winds. Mainly there are three categories of wind system. Primary circulation, that means the winds which permanently blow in a particular directions regularly on the surface. The example are trade winds, westerlies and easterlies. The second one is secondary circulation. These winds are periodic or seasonal. On a particular season they blow, like land breeze, sea breeze, monsoon, or the cyclones, anticyclones. They are example of secondary circulation. And third category is that tertiary circulation. In this, the local winds are the example of tertiary circulations. In any local places, due to the local effect, local causes, the wind blows. So now let us discuss about the wind system. That means how the winds are divided on the surface. Mainly there are two factors that make the movement of air. The first one is temperature and the second one is motion of the earth or the rotation of the earth. Due to these main two factors, there is a circulation of wind or the blowing of wind. There are three types of winds. The first one is permanent winds. They blow regularly in a particular direction throughout the year. Second one is known as seasonal winds, and third one is local winds. According to these, the circulation of wind also is categorized like primary circulations, secondary circulations and tertiary circulations. So let's discuss one by one how these winds blow in a particular directions. Talking about the permanent winds. Permanent winds are again further categorized into three. The first one is trade winds, the second one is antitroid winds or it is also known as westerlies, and third one is easterlies. If you see closely the pressure belt of the earth, low pressure, high pressure, low pressure and then high pressure. So according to the division of this pressure belt, the permanent winds blow regularly towards a particular direction throughout the year. Right, the trade winds blow in the equatorial areas. As the equatorial areas, the temperature is high. So both the hemispheres. From the northern hemisphere and from the southern hemisphere, the winds will blow towards the middle of equatorial area. All right. So let's discuss in detail. Trade winds are the surface winds which move from the hottest latitude to doldrums. We know hottest latitude lies between 40 degree to 50 degree, and the doldrums lie between 5 degree north and 5 degrees south. So the trade winds blow from the hottest latitude towards the doldrums, inward or towards the ICSE, intertropical convergence zone. In the northern hemisphere, they are known as northeast trade winds, and in southern hemisphere, they are known as southeast trade winds. The winds are named by the directions towards which they are blowing. In the northern hemisphere, like they are blowing towards northeast directions, so they will be called as northeast trade winds. And in southern hemisphere, they blow from southwest, so that is known as southeast trade winds. Now let us discuss about the antitroid winds, that means westerlies. Westerlies lie in the tropical areas, that means the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. The westerlies winds blow with great frequency and regularity in regions lying on the poleward sides of the subtropical high pressure belts or hottest latitudes known as the antitroid winds or the westerlies. From the hottest latitude, they blow from the polar areas. In both the hemisphere, from the Tropic of Cancer, it blows toward the Arctic Circle, and from Tropic of Capricorn, it blows towards the Antarctic Circle. The areas in which they blow are often known as the region of westerlies. The temperate areas are known as the region of westerlies. The prevailing wind direction of the antitroid winds in the northern hemisphere is from the southwest, and in the southern hemisphere is from the northwest. So southwest directions will be in the northern hemisphere and northwest direction will be in the southern hemisphere. In winter, they move southward due to shifting of pressure belts in the northern hemisphere, affecting the Mediterranean regions, bringing winter rain to these areas. So during winter season, as we get rainfall, is due to the shifting of the pressure belts. These winds derive their name from the prevailing directions. They blow opposite to the direction of trade winds. So as the trade winds northeast and southeast, they are moving towards the equator, and these westerlies move opposite direction. That means from the direction they come down, they are moving towards the upward of the polar areas. So they are known as antitroid winds. In winter, the Atlantic Ocean is probably the stormiest region of the world, but in summer, the winds and weather are much less violent. In southern hemisphere, on the other hand, the westerlies blow with great speed and strength, regularity throughout the year between 40 degree and 50 degree south, and have been given the roaring 40s or furious 50s because they face almost no obstruction. So in southern hemisphere, these westerlies are given names like the winds which blow in 40 degree latitude of south, they are known as roaring 40s, because in the southern hemisphere the landforms are less and there is a presence of oceans, there is no obstructions, so they blow with full strength and high speed. That's why they are known as roaring 40s. And in 50 degree south latitude, they are known as furious 50s. So it is termed roaring 40s and furious 50s due to the no obstruction that is caused in southern hemisphere. No landforms, no trees, nothing is there to stop their velocity of the speed. Due to this reason, they blow very fast in the southern hemisphere. The third one is polar easterlies. Easterlies will be blowing towards or in an area of polar areas. Easterlies direction is same as the trade winds. These winds blow between 70 degree and 90 degree north and south of both hemispheres. As the air moves towards the equator, it is deflected to the left, and so a belt of winds results, forming a spiral from the polar regions in a easterly directions. These polar winds are extremely irregular. So these easterlies are originating from the polar areas and they are irregular. These winds are extremely cold. In general, in the northern hemisphere, they blow from northeast, whereas in the southern hemisphere, the southeast. So the same directions of the northeast trade winds and southeast trade winds, the easterlies also blow, but they are irregular in the polar areas. They originate from the polar areas, right? So these were the three categories of permanent winds. The first one is trade winds that blow from the hottest latitude to the doldrums, and the westerlies blow from the subtropical high pressure towards the polar areas, or it is also known as from the hottest latitude towards the subtropical low pressure belts, and the easterlies blow from the polar areas to the subtropical low pressure belt, that is between 65 degree to 70 degree, right? So these are the three categories of permanent winds that blow throughout the year regularly. Now let us see the difference between permanent winds and the seasonal winds or periodic winds. Permanent winds blow regularly in the same directions in certain latitudinal zones corresponding to the major pressure belts of the world. They are also called planetary winds or prevailing winds or permanent winds. They have been terms, three names: planetary winds or prevailing winds or permanent winds. Talking about the periodic winds, periodic winds are winds which blow in a certain periods of the day or certain seasons only. These winds develop as a result of variation in local temperature, pressure and humidity, land and sea breezes and monsoon winds. So the example of these periodic winds are land and sea breezes, the monsoon winds, the example of seasonal and the periodic winds. So the difference between permanent winds and seasonal winds: permanent winds will be regularly blowing towards a particular directions on the planet throughout the year, and seasonal winds will be depends upon the season that blow, monsoon seasons, right? Another example of that. Shifting of pressure belts. The seasonal shifting of the pressure belts, we have already discussed about the heat zones of the earth, and also discussed about summer solstice, winter solstice, equinoxes. In the summer solstice, the sun is overhead the Tropic of Cancer. So the sunlight is more towards the northern hemisphere. So that's how the shifting of the pressure belts take place. And in terms of winter season, that is the winter solstice is in December. So that time, as northern hemisphere experiences winter season, in the southern hemisphere they will be having summer season. That is how the shifting of the pressure belts take place. And in autumn and spring season, that is the position of the pressure belts comes normal. That means 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, not much that much of disturbance. All right. So the months like September or the months like March, we have the pleasant weather due to the equinoxes or equal day and night. That is because the pressure belts are normal. There is not much changes of the pressures. That's why the movement of the wind is not fast. In the next video, we shall discuss about the periodic winds. So Remember that permanent winds blow regularly in a particular direction throughout the year. There are three types of permanent winds: trade winds, westerlies and easterlies. Any question, any doubt, please do ask. Thank you so much. God bless you. All the best.